welcome back. We all have those moments where we think, man, I really wish I could just get my life together, like get everything done, be super productive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like finally reaching peak productivity.
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today. We've got these two articles all about productivity and procrastination.
Hoping to find some secrets to unlock our best selves, right?
That's the goal.
Yeah.
But before we get to all the solutions, I think it's important to just acknowledge the struggle.
For sure. We got to understand why we struggle before we can figure out how to fix it.
Okay, so full transparency. I was actually supposed to finish prepping for this deep dive hours ago, but then all of a sudden reorganizing my spice drawer seemed like a much higher priority. Anyone else?
Oh, yeah. Procrastination. It gets all.
So it's not just me being a complete mess.
Not even close. And honestly, it's more complex than just laziness.
Okay, so tell me more. What's the deal with procrastination?
Well, one of the big things researchers talk about is this idea of present bias. Basically, our brains are kind of wired to go for that instant gratification, even if it means we'll regret it later.
So like choosing to binge watch a new show instead of finishing that project that's due next week, even though I know the project is more important.
Exactly. Your brain's like, ooh, instant dopamine, let's do it. Even if logically, it's not the best decision. It's that immediate pleasure winning out over the potential future benefit.
That makes a lot of
Okay.
sense. Now, I know procrastination can sometimes be a sign of like depression or ADHD or something, but it's not always a mental health thing, right?
Right. It's definitely a very human thing to struggle with.
Yeah.
And while it can be linked to those sorts of things, it's definitely not always the case.
So we all procrastinate sometimes. It doesn't necessarily mean something's wrong,
Yeah,
but I guess if it's a constant problem, it might be worth talking to a professional.
exactly.
Okay, so I've always wondered this. Are there different types of procrastinators? Like, is that whole I work best under pressure thing real?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Some research suggests there are active procrastinators, people who actually choose to delay tasks because they feel more motivated by that last-minute pressure.
Wow. So they actually thrive on the stress.
It seems like it. But what about the rest of us? The ones who just, avoid things.
Yeah, what about us?
Those folks might be more like passive procrastinators. They tend to struggle with making decisions and taking action. And some research goes even deeper and looks at specific behavioral styles.
Oh, interesting. Like why?
Well, there's the perfectionist, for example. They get totally paralyzed by the fear of not meeting their own super high standards.
Oh, yeah, I know a few of those. Always striving for perfection. What other types are there?
You've got the dreamer, always full of big ideas but struggling with the details and follow through. And then there's the crisis maker. They kind of thrive on that adrenaline rush of working right up against a deadline.
That last one sounds a little too familiar.
Happens to the best of us. So yeah, we've got this whole spectrum of procrastination personalities. But the big question is, how do we actually break free from this, no matter what our type is?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Because I think we'd all love to procrastinate a little less and get more done.
Well, that's where things get really interesting, because luckily there are tons of proven strategies out there.
Okay, so let's hear them. What are these magical strategies that are going to change our lives?
All right, well, let's start with a classic. It's called the Eisenhower box. It's basically like this decision-making superpower that helps you prioritize what's truly important.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
Uh,
So how does it work?
well, you divide all your tasks into 4 quadrants. Do, decide, delegate, and delete.
So it's all about figuring out what needs to happen right now versus what can wait.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Do tasks are urgent and important. So those are the things you need to tackle, like ASE. Then you've got decide tasks. Those are important, but not urgent. So you need to schedule time for those later on.
So like pay the bills would be a do task, but plan my summer vacation would be more of a decide task.
Perfect example. And then we have delegate. Those are tasks that you can hand off to someone else. And finally, delete. Those are the time wasters that you can just eliminate entirely.
This is making me realize there's probably a lot on my to-do list that should really be in that delete quadrant.
I think we all have those. And the Eisenhower box helps you see that. It's about taking control of your to-do list and not letting it control you.
That's so true.
Yeah,
I think we often feel overwhelmed because everything feels equally important.
exactly. But when you categorize your tasks like this, it helps break down that overwhelm and creates a clear path to action.
Love it. So the Eisenhower box is all about sorting and prioritizing. What else do we have?
Well, let's talk about Warren Buffett's 2-list strategy, simple but effective.
All right, I'm always up for a good productivity hack,
Yeah.
especially if it's coming from someone like Warren Buffett.
So step 1 is write down your top 25 goals. Just get them all out there.
Okay, 25 goals, that's a lot, but okay, I'm with you.
Then you circle your top 5 most important goals.
The most important of the important.
Got it. Those top 5 become your list 1, and everything else goes on list 2.
Okay, so we're really narrowing it down here.
Yep, and here's the key. You focus only on list 1 and avoid even thinking about list 2 until those top priorities are done.
Wow. That's kind of ruthless, but also kind of brilliant.
Hmm.
It's like those other 20 goals don't even exist until I crush these top 5.
That's the idea. It's all about laser focus,
Hmm.
eliminating distractions and really honing in on what matters most.
I can definitely see how that would be powerful.
Mm.
Okay, so we've got the Eisenhower box for decision making and Warren Buffett's strategy for like ruthless prioritization. What else?
Let's talk about the Ivy Lee method.
Okay, never heard of that one. What's the deal?
This one is so simple, it almost seems too good to be true. Basically, it's all about doing the most important thing first.
Wait, that's it. Just do the most important thing first. I feel like I've heard that before.
I'm sure you have. But there's a little more to it. At the end of each day, you write down your 6 most important tasks for tomorrow, and you rank them in order of importance. Then the next day, you focus only on that first task until it's done. Then and only then do you move on to number 2, and so on.
So it's about eliminating decision fatigue because
No.
you've already made your priority list the night before.
Exactly. You don't waste time each morning trying to figure out where to start. You just start with number 1.
So it's like that saying, eat the frog first, right?
Yeah.
Tackle the hardest thing first, and the rest of the day feels easier.
Exactly. The Ivy Lee method is all about building momentum, eliminating that initial resistance we often feel when we look at our to-do list.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this could be super helpful. But what about those really big, overwhelming tasks? Even if they're important, sometimes they're just so big that it's paralyzing.
Oh, I totally get that. And that's where Anthony Trollope's 15-minute routine comes in.
Anthony Trollope, who's that?
He was this super productive novelist back in the 1800s. He wrote over 40 books.
Wow, 40 books. That's incredible.
And his secret was breaking his writing down into small, timed chunks.
Okay, so it's all about making those big tasks feel less daunting.
Yeah. So Trollope would set a timer for 15 minutes, and he would write continuously until the timer went off. No stopping to edit or revise or anything. It was just about getting the words on the page.
So like a mini sprint of focused work.
Exactly. And it's not just for writing either. It can work for any task.
I like that. It seems like a great way to overcome inertia.
Yeah.
You trick your brain into thinking, oh, it's just 15 minutes, no big deal. But then you often find yourself just wanting to keep going.
It happens all the time. And you can also use techniques like the Pomodoro technique. It's similar, but you work for 25 minutes and then take a short break.
Oh, yeah, I've tried that one. It's amazing how much you can get done when you break things down like that.
It's all about time boxing.
So we've covered a lot here. The Eisenhower box, Warren Buffett's two-list strategy, the Ivy Lee method, and Anthony Trollope's 15-minute routine.
We have. And they're all great strategies. But remember, you don't have to try everything at once. Just pick one that resonates with you and start there.
Good point. But even with all these awesome strategies, there are still those little everyday habits that can trip us up. Those things we do without even realizing they're sabotaging our productivity.
You're so right. Those little things can really add up. So let's do a quick rundown of some of the most common pitfalls and how to avoid them.
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest thing to remember is that we can totally beat procrastination. We don't have to be slaves to our to-do lists forever.
Exactly. It's not some unwinnable battle. It's all about understanding why we procrastinate and then finding the strategies that actually work for us.
Right. It's not one size fits all. You got to find what clicks for you.
So maybe the Eisenhower box is your jam, or maybe you're more of a Warren Buffett to-list kind of person.
Whatever works. And the important thing is to just start somewhere.
Yeah.
You don't have to do everything perfectly right away. Yeah, trying to change everything at once is a recipe for disaster. It's way better to just pick one small thing and build from there.
Exactly. Progress over perfection. And speaking of progress, I've got a question for you, our listener. Which of these strategies really spoke to you? And what's one tiny step you can take today to start putting it into action?
Ooh, I love that. What one small step?
Yeah.
Even if it's just like writing down your top 3 tasks for tomorrow or setting a timer for 15 minutes of focused work on that project you've been avoiding.
Exactly. Any step in the right direction is a good step.
Couldn't agree more. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap things up. So remember, you do have the power to get things done. It all starts with taking that first step. And if you need a little inspiration, just think back to all the amazing strategies we talked about today.
And don't forget to check out the show notes for links to those articles we discussed.
Yes, great point.
Yeah.
We'll have all that info waiting for you. So go forth and conquer those to-do lists. We believe in you.